I appreciate the very much introduction that Vishal gave, and I do very much want to, no problem, this is the pointer, thank you. I do very much want to continue on many of the themes that he has elaborated upon. And what I have to present today, which is roughly themed around the idea of gender, water, and geographies of exclusion. Social capital does play a very large degree of influence, as do different cultural, religious, ethnic parameters as well. So hopefully you'll be on the lookout for that. Having said that, water institutions and water rights, these are all things that I work with but not focused upon. So this is also an effort for me to show you some of the case studies, and in this particular presentation I'm going to give you 3 case studies that you can kind of help, we can collectively think together about how all of these things come together. So let's just go ahead and begin. I want us to think with geographies of exclusion because they identify the forms of social and spatial exclusion and subsequently examine the fate of knowledge, which has been produced by members of excluded groups. And this term was really made famous by a gentleman named Sibley, who's a cultural geographer. We're not going to have too many terms and concepts in this particular presentation, but I just wanted to start off with this because it's a framing device for us all. And he's looking at the way space is always contested, and that, quote, relatively trivial conflicts can provide clues about power relations and the role of space in social control. So let's stop there. What are some of the key things that we are to see coming out in this idea of geographies of exclusion? Why would this be possibly relevant for discussion of gender, water, institutions, and water rights?
See more powerful control, the more advantageous space.
Yeah, okay, so the layout of the space reflects a lot of social hierarchies and power variations. Is that correct? Can we think about the city of Delhi, for instance? What do we think about when we think of Delhi's spatial differentiation? Is there a lot of equality in the spatial differentiation across Delhi, or inequality? Inequality. So we have last, because it's such an outrageous question to be asking. Is that correct? Okay, so I'm going to get to some of those slides in just a minute. But what else do we see? What other key concepts do we see coming up from this idea of exclusion? So we have power, and that was a great point. What else do we have in here? We have knowledge. Why would knowledge be important in thinking about geographies of exclusion?
Certain kinds of knowledge may be privileged over others.
Exactly. Fantastic. And certain kind of knowledge might even be produced on the margins of these power configurations that oftentimes don't get integrated into policy and institutional systems of management. Correct? So that's great. Anything else about knowledge that comes to one's mind?
Trivial conflicts.
Yeah, so that's another thing, conflict. So this, so thinking about spaces of geographies of exclusion, these are areas, the ones that are, kind of on the margins, the people who are excluded, they are kind of living on an everyday sense, conflict, and they're trying to constantly mediate them. Okay, let's go through and let's think about this. So this is a map of NCT Delhi percentage of slum population. It's old, it's 2001. I'm sure this would have changed quite drastically in the last 15 years. But here we clearly see this is kind of a very easy way to already point out that we have different outlays and different inequities in how people are placed in terms of socioeconomic standing. But what really pops out to you about this particular density? So this is the Yamuna flowing through here. If the red is the highest slum concentration, does that strike any chords if we're thinking about either questions of equity?
Availability of water.
Availability of water. Why do you think about that in particular? In this particular region?
Water resources.
There's not a lot. So there's more water scarcity in these regions? No or yes? Is there more water or less water in these regions?
There's more water.
More water. Okay.
Availability is more.
There's better infrastructure, really? Okay. Exactly. So you already have, within these areas, you have a lot of slum dwellers, oftentimes service providers for people who are in areas that are wealthier. So this actually is also pointing out, this is the density of probably the highest income areas, right? And simultaneously the lowest income areas. So you have the two existing at the same time. So we can look at Geographies of Exclusion, they think about disparate access, even to water. And then what I want for you all to be pitching in at the end of each of these case studies is to talk to me about your perceptions of how institutions can play a role in addressing some of these geographies of exclusion. So this is the last slide before we start talking about this first case study, and this is the Center for Science and Environment's schema of who gets, this is liters per capita per day. So I think the area we were just looking at that I was pointing out around the highest concentration of slums would have been around here, I think, isn't it? About there. So we have, and this is Carol Bog, this is from the cantonment, this is Army cantonment. And does this also include the embassy? No, that's embassy. Oh, okay, I see. Great. Well, so we have a huge spread in terms of who has access to water and who doesn't. These two numbers I find very striking, Narella and Meroli. But the reason why I put this up to overlay it with the last slide is to point out again that these slides and these figures tell always only one very basic side of the equation, which is like total water supply per capita. But they often don't tell us about within an area such as this, the people that are living in the slums, what kind of exclusion and marginality they're experiencing, not just economically, but also around water. So what do we know about slum dwellers in the more affluent parts of Delhi and their water struggles? You all work in the sector, so I know things that I would like to say, but let's hear what you have to share about their experiences of exclusion around water.
Like quantity and quality issues are there with water.
A lot of quantity and quality issues, exactly.
Very often they live in neighborhoods which don't have access. There's no formal government provision of water.
They're oftentimes off the grid, and the government maintains that so that it doesn't get formalized, the settlement. Anything else?
Even installation of proper
Yeah,
pipelines and metering.
Infrastructure is not there. Yeah, unless there's an institution like the one Rena was talking about yesterday that's going in and trying to provide that for them. So you have, I mean, I've exchanged in past times in India, I've exchanged with some of these people living in these communities, particularly ones across from like the American Embassy School, for instance. There's a very prominent slum there. It's quite fascinating, the contrast. And as a matter of fact, the American Embassy School and the American Embassy, they do a lot of rainwater harvesting. So they're actually capturing, hundreds of millions of liters of water every year, putting it back into their ground, but it doesn't necessarily percolate over to the slums nearby. And if you talk to people there, they'll point out a few things. I mean, they oftentimes have to draw water twice a day, in the morning and the evening. They have to fight over the water. I mean, it's a negotiation, it's a practice of sorts. And oftentimes they can't drink that water, they can't bathe in that water. It causes their hair to fall out, causes stomach ailments. And a lot of the time, extra time that they would have perhaps beyond that to engage in meaningful employment and income generation, they have to stay and either be there for the time to draw water out of the well or to wait for the tank of water. Now, what gender configuration would be tasked with that, right? You all know the answer. It's oftentimes the women. Now, this is a major issue for reasons that we've been discussing. The first one is, a loss of income generation for women is very significant in terms of their women's ability to have a better standard of living. Oftentimes, qualities around hygiene and nutrition are better when there's more income generation. This affects the quality of hygiene and nutrition of children. So the next generation coming up is often doing better. As a matter of fact, Yalva Trulov, whose work I'm going to highlight in another slide, has pointed out that in slums, such as the one across from the American Embassy School, that in Chanyakapuri, different areas of Chanyakapuri, slum dwellers often say that the incidence of diarrhea is once monthly per person. Right? So that's a huge loss of time. It's a huge investment in medications that they're able to buy them, that they're investing. And there's like an energy tax and there's an overall quality of life tax that's going on with that as well. And then what about the water tanker scenarios? What do you know about water tanker supply to these particular communities?
That is why the can itself is showing that they have to fetch water from some long distances and they have to store in there because lot of problems also.
There's a lot of
Conflicts
conflicts.
also there.
Exactly.
And no metering and no measurement and because of the structural facilities not given, we cannot measure also actually how much they demand and what is their requirement.
Temperature variations also there. When the
Number
temperature
variation,
comes
even
down,
population density variation also. you don't know how many are there settled and all,
Very
there's no
true.
countable measurement and all. So it is creating a lot of challenges to improve the system, and it is an unorganized colony. At
Yes.
any time it may relocate also.
Okay. So there's a problem of investment as well and upkeep and maintenance. Exactly. So then the other issue that we have in these particular regions and communities, if we're thinking about access to water access to slums, which are geographies that are by default excluded, by nature excluded. Another thing that we see is that communities, we see very weak social institutions. You have a lot of communities that are precarious. There's a lot of migrants, so you have a lot of different speakers of different languages, from different castes, from different ethnicities. And that actually becomes one of the biggest problems around getting a good supply of water, is that there's not strong enough networks, there's oftentimes not strong enough social capital to be able to create these negotiations so that with the TERI scheme, if we were to translate that to slums, sometimes it happens, but also it's a struggle for people that I've seen in the literature and the people I've talked to, where getting someone to fill their bucket one day or get their water tank of water one day when they have to work, and then returning that favor can be much more of a challenge. So this is one of the areas that we see that there's very high health risks, and I think from the institutional framework, one of the main things that's most pertinent is the need to address how to, if we can provide them with actual provisions in terms of better water supply, to at least help expand the social networks and the capacity building. So this is something that Yaffa Trulove, and it's kind of a dense academic article, so I didn't necessarily send it over for reading, but if you're interested, I would definitely suggest that you note this down. She's done a lot of work around this very issue on water inequity in Delhi, looking from a feminist political ecology framework. So I would highly recommend this if you're interested in understanding how women in slums in particular are suffering with and from water. Feminist political ecology is something we can talk about in one of the later slides because I have put it up in case it's a point of interest for the rest of you. But she's pointing out that that in Delhi's unreliable water supply, only women go to fetch water. The husbands, this is a quote, our husbands always think about their work and job, but they never think about collecting water. They of course need water, but they do not have the headache of collecting water. They do not want to know which types of problems are being faced by ladies in fetching water. So what else is this particular quote helping us understand about the geographies of exclusion within these particular communities?
What will we say? It's a neglected community, we can say.
But there's a problem of knowledge, right? So geographies of exclusion is interested in knowledge framings, knowledge dissemination. So there's only one part of the population that understands the ins and outs of this water struggle. And a lot of these people don't have actual capacity to air their grievances in the proper formalized way to which an institutional framework like the municipality could respond. And I'll let you go on and read the rest of that. But this was just really as a starter example to talk about what happens when there's weak institutions. And what I want to point out now in the coming two examples is what happens when there's increasingly stronger institutions that can help address, and what matters, how it matters when social capital is a bit stronger in helping people get better water supply. I have this map up not because I don't think you know the map of India, but just to point out that along the entire length of, there's a lot of really great water scholarship that's gone all over the subcontinent. But if you follow the Ganga Trail in particular, there's some really fascinating work that's being done. In particular, I think you've mentioned it, Vishal, there's in one of your articles, there's a lot of work done by Farhana Sultana around in the Bangladesh region at the end of the Ganga basin, the ways in which women are additionally suffering from low access to water and high levels of arsenic, and the ways that that's having an impact on health, on reproductive health, and also on marriage prospects and potentials. When women get arsenic poisoning, they actually have a lot of skin problems and ailments, and that's feeding into cultural norms around femininity, beauty, and ideal feminine norms. So it has a feedback cycle, which is what I want to point out with this map, that there's feedback between poor water access, ailments, and then also ability to maintain certain cultural and religious norms and expectations in society. So the second case that I want to get into is in Darjeeling. What do you think of first when you think of Darjeeling?
Tea.
Tea. Tea's an iconic one. What else? Has anyone been to Darjeeling? Can you raise your hand if you've been to Darjeeling? Very good. Anyone else? What do you know about the water supply in Darjeeling? Very scarce. How do you know that? Hilly regions. Okay. It's interesting that everyone says the points that out as if being hilly region should mean that it has less water. But doesn't there hilly regions get a lot of rainwater, right? So why would there be scarcity?
There is no proper.
There's a lot of runoff.
There's no proper infrastructure for collecting it. It's true, exactly. So Darjeeling is a really interesting case. Let me just see what I have here. Darjeeling is a really interesting case, and it was obviously founded by the British in the 1850s. Out of nothing, there was almost no populations that were living in that particular landscape when they decided that it was a great sanctorium for retreat and rejuvenation for the British colonists. And one of the first things they did, of course, if they're going to live there, they need to set up a water supply. So in 1914, they finalized the first water supply, which built a man-made lake up at Central, which is upstream from Darjeeling, which is on a ridge. It's a hill station. And it was designed to supply water for about 10,000 to 15,000 people. Now, in this day and age, even today, it's the same water supply system that now is supplying water to 250 to 350,000 people. That doesn't include the fluctuating population of an additional 200,000 plus people in the tourist season. So what you have is you have a massive crisis of water in Darjeeling, so much so that a lot of people have to get by, Darjeeling residents who aren't on the main British created water grid, they have to get by on washing with 1 liter per day. And a lot of Darjeeling residents, if you talk to them about this, they'll laugh and they'll go to great lengths to talk about how they manage and how they especially perform their cultural rites and rituals in this very eclectic, multi-ethnic, multi-religious part of the country. One of the other problems with this particular region is that there's so much of a dire water supply problem that a number of private suppliers have popped up. So this is termed the water mafia. It seems to be completely legal. But people consider it a mafia because the prices get raised so dramatically. Oftentimes, a lot of people are priced out. So if you're in the particular geography of capital and economic inclusion where you can afford that, maybe you're fine. But one of the things that arises very quickly in Darjeeling is you have these very stark geographies of exclusion. So these are photos. This is one of the photos I've taken from an article. It's also mapped in the same article that I'll show in just a minute. But this is, you're looking up from a satellite supply. So this is actually the top of the ridge. So this is the railway station here. This pretty much follows the original British water supply, right? So you have, these are lower elevations falling on both sides. And so you actually have a schema of high water per capita density here, and it falls lower and lower as you get farther down the hill. There's also greater and greater amounts of raw sewage that are flowing down the hill because there's not a great sewage supply, and that contaminates a lot of the water. It means that there's poor populations with less water, worse quality, more ailments, leading into all of the public health issues that I addressed earlier. So in this particular photo, you have I think this is the community here of Garhwal is this particular community. So you can see that it's already a very gendered space. These would be images from any part of the country that would be familiar to you. But in talking with these women, I mean, some of these women in a region just literally 100 yards up the hill, you have some of the most expensive hotels in the region. So 100 yards down, and these women are waiting 2 hours, 3 hours to get water. Now, fortunately, they are part of a particular collective known as a Samaj, right? A social organization known as a Dam Samaj, right? A village collective, village community. And some of the founding ideas around Samaj is that they provide kalyan, or welfare, for one another. So these are ways in which, even though the water struggles are quite stark in this particular location, me and another colleague, we looked at Muldara Samaj, Jawahar Samaj, and Mongolpuri Samaj, and we looked at how different collectives of these Samaj were working together in order to better access and manage their water. Now, most of these Samaj actually rely on spring waters, but a lot of these spring waters have very cultural, they have different values beyond just access to water. This is pure water. It's Chocopani, I mentioned that the other day. So it's water that's both fit for consumption directly, but is also ritually fit. And a lot of people would believe that there's spirits and devta that and nag that live in these waters and help maintain these waters. So even though this particular photo looks like, you know, another one of those photos that you would put in a book to talk about water scarcity, this is actually a photo of water management and water abundance for particular communities. The reason why this has happened is that they have set out very strong rules and regulations for how to manage that spring water. There are very clear mandates on what you cannot do. Dumping, polluting, there's very clear restrictions on how much water you can take on at any time. If there's a problem in the water supply, everyone pitches in money to have it corrected. If someone is transgressing, there's a council and they might be kicked out of the samaj, which would mean they would be prevented from actually using this water supply. And the samaj, these collectives, these village collectives, don't only just worry about water supply. They take annual fees if you want to belong in this samaj. And they help each other out in times of marriages. They pitch in for the costs. In times of funerals, they pitch in for the costs. And one of the amazing things about these samaj in Darjeeling is that they're incredibly multi-ethnic, multi-religious. So you'll find people, it's one of the few areas in India that I've found so far, where you'll find people in samaj who are Christian, Muslim, Hindu, originally Rai or Lapcha. And if you ask them, you know, which part of their identity is most important to them, they'll say it's my samaj affiliation, and that they go to each other's weddings and they go to each other's funerals. Now, there's some people that would critique that and just say that's a nice way of, you know, that's what they present to others, and maybe behind the scenes it's different. But still, that's a kind of inclusive rhetoric I haven't seen in quite a while. So what we have here, and as a colleague of mine has been pointing out in a particular article called Waste Management and Water Management, not waste, in post-colonial Darjeeling, the promised limits of decentralized resource provision, is that there's a challenge and an opportunity. So you have locations such as Darjeeling that are just absolutely screaming for water, but you also have very promising pockets where people have effectively managed water in decentralized ways that the government could potentially step in and augment and facilitate those decentralized solutions to better supply water for the entire region. This, even you're arguing in this particular article, could be more cost effective than some of the other solutions that are being promoted. There's an effort to, as a matter of fact, pump up large parts of, I think it's the Balusan or something like that, river, to pump it up into Darjeeling to augment the water supply. It's water that's been used already for irrigation. It's full of pesticides. People say that it's yellow, and it actually causes stomach ailments. So there's been a lot of critique over that, and I believe that it's been stopped for various reasons, including political reasons. But the expenditure for that particular project, right, to pipe water up from the valley into Darjeeling was going to be huge. So for a fraction of the cost, you can both build on the social capital and the community networks that are resilient in Darjeeling through the Samaj, and you can also better address these water supply issues. So that's one way in which social capital really comes to the fore. So I'm just going to give 10 more minutes for my last example, and then we'll go ahead and have some discussion to the extent that you are interested in having a discussion. And this particular case comes from my work up in Uttarakhand, in particular the Garhwal Valley. Just for fun, who all is either from Garhwal or has been to Garhwal? Can I see a show of hands? Been to Garhwal. Do we have any Garhwalis, Uttarakhandis here? Uttarakhandis we have? No? Yeah, I know they're not synonymous, but yes. Kumaon? Oh yes, so you're from Kumaon? Exactly. Okay, great. So some of these examples will be very relevant to you. So any ideas what this is a image of? Could possibly be an image of?
With the circles.
Yeah, the circles. Take a guess.
Springs.
There's something over Darjeeling that's
Water
huge.
extraction?
Okay.
So Delhi doesn't have it.
This here is the Sardar Sarovar Dam. Okay?
These are reservoirs.
These are reservoirs. This would be the TERI Dam here. Okay? So this is a map of dams, currently existing dams in North India and in the rest of in other parts of South Asia except for China. Now you'll see that the highest density is actually down here around the plains in this particular image. So all of these regions, all of these countries, Nepal, Bhutan, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, they're all trying to expand as much as possible the hydropower potential of this region. Not including China, which we all know they're very fond of building dams. If we just look at this belt in particular, there's a potential to install about 200,000 megawatts of hydroelectric energy from these particular dams. Now, on paper that makes a lot of sense, but what do we know about Uttarakhand? Uttarakhand was once Uttar Pradesh. Why was there a switch? Well, the history tells us that the movement for an independent state of Uttarakhand was based in the very notion of being a geography that was excluded, right? So Uttarakhand used to be part of Uttar Pradesh, and all of the policies that were created for Uttarakhand, what is now Uttarakhand, were made in Lucknow. And there was a very strong sentiment that the people, the policymakers in Lucknow can't possibly speak for the residents of Uttarakhand. So we have a very long-standing geography of exclusion, very deep sentiments about being marginalized, not being heard to, not being listened to. And this is one of the things that really inspired that movement and has continued to formulate a lot of the sentiments around development in the region. Not one of which is this. What is this? TERI Dam. Yes, it needs almost no explanation. This is TERI Dam. Began construction in the 1970s, and Dirghani briefly put it to a halt, but it was completed in 2006. Very mixed messages, very mixed responses. It's supposed to generate initially 100,000 megawatts. It produces, I think, less than that. It's tilting up quite frequently. It displaced about 100,000 people and several hundred villages. And it may or may not have diminished the downstream impacts of the floods from the 2012 and 2013 cloudbursts and flooding that you had in the region. But you also have very serious gender implications of these large development projects. So in this particular region, we were talking about in the beginning yesterday about the feminization of agriculture. And this is an early photo I took in 2007 when I was beginning my field work, and this is a woman overlooking kind of almost the tail end of the TERI Geo over there. That's what it is on the left-hand side. But you already had, since the time of kind of the British enlisting of Garhwalis into their military forces, you had a very strong influence of out-migration since about the mid-1800s of men, and that continues to this day. But with the imposition of large dams and large hydroelectric projects, which some people like and some people don't agree on, I'm not giving a value judgment on that just right now. What you do see is you see even less opportunities for, when TERI was submerged, that went an entire economy of old TERI. People had to out-migrate. You find a lot of people in these hills who are former taxi drivers, who were former residents of the TERI aristocracy that was submerged. But you see more and more women being left behind to tend to these fields, as this woman is complaining about to me in this particular image. And you see a lot of differentiation across different women with different class and caste and education levels, different divisions of labor based on different geographies of exclusion as well, and a very strong lack of financial safety nets. And this is where my work really has been playing into, is thinking about how these lively struggles also overlap with cultural and religious systems and affinities. So I won't really get into this. I'll talk about this at the end with, I'll share a little bit about the book that I have coming out in March and April. But these are also geographies that are very meaningful. They're sacred geographies. You have a geography of exclusion that's also a sacred geography. And that sacred geography in Garhwal is the Dev Bhumi, the land of gods and goddesses. So you have this very strong sense that a lot of policies are being made for this region without people necessarily buying into it. And then also this might be, for those that don't like dam building, it might be an infraction of their rights. But for the same people, it might also be going against the will of the gods and goddesses, and particularly if you're damming the Ganga, a sacred entity like Mother Ganga. So just to make it brief here, one of the things that I did for the bulk of my research around this particular issue is I spent a lot of time with women who are involved in efforts to stop the last 3 dams that were going to go up on the Bhagirathi Ganga, leading up to Gangotri, which were stalled in 2012. And to make a long story short, one of the things that I really got involved in is thinking about how women are really knowledgeable about the entire water cycle, the entire ways in which water, both from rivers, from the dams, from the springs, from different channels that they use for irrigation, all feeds into this very robust sense of stewardship, of ownership of the land, and the sense that women are very responsible and have a lot of capacity to make sound water management decisions. So when people weren't feeling like they were being listened to and they felt the institutions were weak, one of the things that we saw coming up was the rise of Mahila Mangalal, women's committees, women's kind of self-organizing systems. So you see women here from the particular village that I worked with, and they just set up their community center there, which they had to have a neutral place because of caste differences within the village. But you see that more and more these sorts of organizations are coming together to create a way for women to not necessarily agree, but at least come up with a unified voice that then may lead to, they present their concerns around water or other kinds of development to Panchayat or Sarpanch sort of officials and figures. So again, you have people who are still trying, who are building on, or creating networks and social capital, oftentimes social capital that can be very gendered. And I'll leave it for those that want to read my book, but this really ties into other gendered configurations of responsibility and like dharmic responsibility that women have within the Hindu faith to be good stewards, to be good people who follow a higher moral code than perhaps one that is expressed by mainstream development. I'll leave this here, but I do want to just point out that there's a lot of ways in which we could theorize some of these connections between gender, between water, and between environment. And these are all points of focus. These are also all points of disagreement. So for those of you that are studying this, these are things that you go to in literature. You could look at ecofeminism and its critiques, feminist environmentalism, which Nina Garhwal of Delhi University really made popular and famous. Feminist political ecology, which is now probably the cutting-edge theoretical framework that we have around women and environment. Women in the politics of place, right? Places are within geographies. Geographies can be both excluded, included, or sacred. And then we have various other frameworks. So having said that, I just want to point out that these are all issues that I think are very relevant, and that there is a strong role for us to think more holistically about how why caste and class matters, why gender matters, but why women are different and why we need to engage with that diversity among and within women, and why culture and religion also can have an influence, and the ways in which people feel motivated to take action, the ways in which people feel motivated to start working with others and build social capital, to build networks that provide like a welfare or kalyan, like the Samaji Darjeeling, and that the ways in which religion can even inform notions of proper development practice and proper water management. That's pretty much everything I wanted to say, and I thank you for your time.